I'm at Silverstone today, and I have been very lucky to have just finished driving this very special Volvo P1800 by Cyan Racing. So you might remember this was the original Polestar racing team. They raced with TWR Volvos that were built in the UK and raced them in the Swedish Touring Car Championship. They've since gone on to win various World Touring Car titles. Polestar has been bought by Volvo, as you probably know, and now this team is called Cyan. But they've done something a bit different. They've instead of doing a race car, they've built a very classic Volvo, the P1800, and put World Touring Car Championship power in it. More on which in a little bit. But first, let's have a quick look around this car. Now you can probably tell this is no ordinary P1800 and not just a simple respray. So it's a very comprehensive job, to the extent that even though this is a 1964 model, officially there's very little of that original car in there. I think there are a few bits of steel in here somewhere and the shape of the roof in here, but even the top of the roof is carbon fibre, and all this glass is all new because it's all a different shape. So what is left of the original car? Not very much, to be honest. It's even a full carbon fibre body, and parts of the design even are completely different. So these front wheels are pushed forward here, and as are the rear, and the rear end is the rear wheels are pushed forward as well. The rear end is also shorter, and this section here is lower as well. So it's a real kind of redesign as well. I think there are shades of Jaguar XJC in here, and real hot rod look to it, and it looks great. You can tell it's a wider track just because they've had to put these extra lips on the body here. We've got 18-inch tyres, and these are actually a Mercedes spec Pirelli, what is it, a P0, Pirelli P0 tyre, and we've got AP Racing brakes, 4 pistons front and 4 pistons at the rear here. But the real kind of link between Volvo's past and Cyan's present is the engine. So let's just pop in here. Also, one of the few bits that's original is this bonnet release. So let's open the bonnet. Here we go. So look at that. How tidy is that? Now, the first time I looked at this, I thought it was naturally aspirated. I couldn't see a turbo anywhere. It's so neat and pure looking, but if we come around here, you can see the turbo just down there. And so this is a 2 litre, as it says on the top of the engine there, but it's actually based on the 1.6 litre World Touring Car Championship winning engine that was in the S60 that won the World Touring Car Championship in 2017. It had to be 1.6 for those regs. The natural Volvo size is 2 litres, so this is back to the 2 litre. It is effectively the touring car engine, though, other than a remap to make it more drivable. It produces 420 brake horsepower, and I've got it on my notes somewhere. I'll try and quickly do that as we're having a look around. The torque figure, which I've forgotten. Maybe we don't worry about that. So 420 brake horsepower, and in a car that weighs 990 kilos, so less than a ton, so a very potent thing. Let's just drop this down and have a look inside, and we just tighten that back up again with this. So in here, so it's probably a good chance to look at these door cards. Look, all the material here is leather with this lovely sort of like a wool textile feeling, very classy looking, and it's very much a road car with a kind of racy flavour. This, so it's not a stripped out racer, and apparently the guys have been very inspired both by Singer and also Alphaholics with what they've done with their restomods, and you can definitely feel some of that flavour here. So we've got this titanium cage. It's wrapped in leather, but it's titanium. And we've got these bucket seats, and these are absolutely fantastic. They're quite wide, as you can probably see, so there's plenty of room in them, and I'm sure you can spec different widths if you want to, but they're right down on the deck, and they're really comfortable as well. So you probably see on this one, this leather, really nice leather, really squishy, so sort of thing that you can really kind of lock into for a long journey and feel really comfortable. Really lovely headrest as well. And if we just turn around here, you'll see these dials with their Swedish lettering on, so I presume that's olja, so oil, benzene for petrol, and then we've got the oil temperature and water temperature here with these beautiful dials as well, and a Momo steering wheel. And so I went out in this car, it's not ideal conditions at all, pretty horrid conditions. And what was really interesting was just how well balanced and sorted this car is, and I think that's where Cyan's heritage on the racetrack really pays off. I think there's loads of people who can make cars, and craftsmen who can build cars, and fair play, they're amazing things, but it's the setup that sometimes lets these things down. And it's noticeable how well balanced this car is. I mean, it's got electric power steering. This is a default steering map from an aftermarket setup, so they're experimenting with that, and they do have a prototype map, but this is the default. I actually quite like it. It's nicely weighted, quite light, but not too heavy. It doesn't self-center, so you turn it like that and it kind of stays there, which I thought might feel odd, and maybe it will when you drive it really hard and start needing to slide it around on track a bit. But even on the road, I just kind of forgot about it actually. The gearbox is a 5-speed Hollinger gearbox, and wave track torque biasing limited slip diff, and also an entirely new independent rear suspension. So the live axle's gone, all new independent rear suspension, and double wishbones all around, so new setup at the front as well. So it's a really comprehensive re-engineering job. So yeah, so on the road it just felt really nicely planted. It wasn't upset by cambers, even standing water, things like that. It just kind of tracked true and felt really confidence inspiring. There's no ABS on this car, really strong pedal and brakes, firm feel. I might quite like ABS on a day like this, I think, but there's no doubt that they're very competent, and even when I tried to lock them up in a straight line and give them a good push, they'd still hold the car down. So so there's no the passive safety in this car. Is the inherent safety in this setup is really strong. The engine is really progressive in the way it builds its boost, so it's not an amazingly charismatic engine. It's quite gruff, but it delivers its power in a really linear manner, and because this chassis is so well sorted, and those Mercedes Pirellis actually, once you start working through the revs and they start spinning in the wet, sometimes you get a real scare when that happens, and you back off, and maybe the car snaps a little bit. This car is so progressive in both its power delivery and the way it breaks traction. It just really encourages you to play with it, and I think also just the way you're sitting in these comfy seats and everything, you kind of car's built around you. So once it does start to break away, it actually starts to give you more confidence, and you realise it's not going to snap, and even through corners as you feed in the power, it just breaks away so progressively and starts to slide that it's an absolute delight. And I think if anything, it's the setup that really sells me on this car. So I think the big question then, how much and how long does it take to get them? So this is the first car, and they have got 2 more customer orders, so they are going to be making them to order. It's going to take 12 to 15 months to get your car. If you put your order in now, obviously that'll be bespoke to you with your options, but you need to be looking at a ballpark figure of $500,000 US. So it's a lot of money, but I think if you're after the ultimate Volvo P1800, there's no doubt that this is absolutely that car.